there was so many misunderstandings that we had in the beginning of our relationship because of a conversation that wasn't had. I said, sometimes you got to just let me be wrong. And what happens is I'll be wrong, but because you call me a name in the process,
I'll be wrong too. Or you already told me in your word that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and you made me in your image. So I'm not these things that is going through my brain. I'm having conflict, me versus me. I feel like we as women, we feel like we don't be heard. We have to keep repeating ourselves. And that's where my downfall is where I keep repeating it. You was like, babe, you gonna keep saying it again?
I heard you.
I heard you, but I'm gonna keep saying it and keep saying it. And I feel like that's poking the bear because it's like I want a reaction.
Men, we have to be accountable. We got to control the thermostat because at the end of the day, I believe men are responsible for what comes out of the household, period. I don't care if you're dating. I don't care if you're engaged. I don't care if you're married. What comes out of your household is your responsibility. And when you don't control the thermostat, you put yourself in situations, i.e. like Jonathan Majors, where they had conflict.
Correct.
They did not have good conflict resolution. And whatever they were dealing with, somebody poked somebody to get a reaction and not a resolution.
Correct.
What's up? It's your boy RJ, and you're now tuned into the check-in. Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy RJ, and with my lady, Jessica. What's going on, y'all? What is going on, man? This is another episode of the check-in where we have real talk, real conversations in real time, where we're really transparent. We deal with real issues, and we really like to keep that thing real. We enjoy everybody that's been liking and sharing and being a part of what it is that we're doing on the check-in, man. A lot of dope conversations to be had, and we're going to be dropping a link in the comments about people that want to be on the check-in as well. We want to make this a family affair. We believe that, everybody in the community has something to share of importance and everybody can grow from everybody. But you got to be real. You got to be ready to have the real conversation and deal with real problems in real time, y'all. Really quickly, let's jump straight in.
Come on, baby.
You know how we do check-ins and stuff like that. So you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling like you got me on a 10, babe.
Yeah, I was feeling
you got me on a high right now.
Yeah.
I feel like we on a high.
Yeah.
And we haven't felt like this since we've been together.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Things are clicking. I say all the time, when she's good, she's good. And she's in a space. Jessica, you're in a space right now where everything is good. Everything is cracking, man. Really quickly before we dive in also, man, we're in this dope recording studio. Y'all like this studio? I love
baby.
it. We've put it together.
I like it.
I know it's amazing. It feels good. These chairs are comfortable. Everything in here is really dope, man. And so I just wanted to shameless plug because we've been working on this studio for forever. Probably since we've been together, you've seen me make different variations.
Yeah, moving this and moving that. Yeah, the couch, and then we put the upstairs. Yeah, we here.
We've done a lot of different variations, but I think we figured it out, y'all. If y'all like the way this is set up, man, y'all drop a couple of likes, a couple of hearts. Let us know that you like the setup. We got a couple of more upgrades that's going to be happening. You're going to start seeing. We're going to get an LED light of the check-in. Basically, you're going to get an illuminated situation where you know what you're always tuned into when you're hanging out with this. Yeah. So it's going to be dope, man. And just to answer the question myself, also, I'm normally at a low number. Because I like to keep things level. I don't like to do too much. I don't like to get too high or too low. But I'm at a smooth 8.
That's not like you.
Yeah, I'm at a smooth 8. We just came off of a fast, and and this is one thing I want to make sure I'm grateful to you for publicly, is that you had some restrictions in terms of what we were able to eat and what we were able to consume, and you cooked a good meal every night. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed. I think I gained weight.
I think I did too.
I think I got full, and I was on rations. And so it takes a virtuous woman of God to make sure that you eat well, that you feel good, and that you stay healthy throughout a fast where you're supposed to be sacrificing. She took the restrictions of fish, and we ate good
I
every
flipped
night.
it about 5 ways. Didn't know I could flip it 5 ways.
I ain't never had so much fish and felt like it was different every day. I promise you, we ate the sea, y'all.
We ate the sea.
We ate the sea.
It got to a point where I said, babe, at 3:00, I can order you food. Food can be on the way. He said, no, I just want to eat with you.
I want to eat the sea.
And then I felt bad because I was like, I'm ordering me a sandwich at 3:00. It's going to come to my job.
Yeah.
but I'ma still eat with you.
You know, that was another thing I want to highlight too. It made me realize we do certain things together, and then when we don't do them together, I don't feel right.
I didn't want to eat that fish sandwich, but that fish sandwich was good. I ain't gonna say a lie to you, but I felt convicted after I ate it.
When you're with your person,
I felt sick. I did. I promise you, I'm not gonna lie to you. I felt really sick after I ate it, and I was like,
you should have waited till you came home with me.
Yeah.
And I tried to make you feel guilty too. I tried my best. Listen, I just eat
it
with
was,
you, baby.
baby. I tore that fish sandwich up, but baby, I felt sick after.
I enjoy eating with you. That's one of the things that we do
That's
together.
one thing we do together is eat together.
Pray, and I hope every time you eat without me, it doesn't
it does something to my stomach.
It don't process the right way. I really enjoy that, man. So today we are dealing with conflict. We're dealing with conflict today. How do we deal with conflict resolution? And I believe this is a very vital topic. And I want you to understand that we're not going to cover everything in this particular conversation because I think conflict is an ever-growing conversation because people grow, people change. And the way you handle things, you know, it's subject to a situation. Mm-hmm. But I really want to unpack and I really want to peel the onion as it pertains to something that happened this week. We got a call, and I'm not going to go into detail about what it was about. I want to land on one particular area. They were dealing with conflict and just jumping straight to the preach, straight to the text. I believe he was kind of disrespectful out the gate. Mm-hmm. And I just want to land there, regardless of what the situation was, regardless of how they got there. And I think they were only dating for like a month. And I just want to start the conversation by saying, you know, what you allow now is what you'll have to deal with going in the future.
Correct.
And the advice that I gave, you know, just without going into the whole story, is that, you know, disagreement does never mean disrespect. I don't care in any way, shape, form, or fashion. There's no toleration, I believe, for man against female, female against man for disrespect. And I believe, like, you know, I'm big on name calling.
You can't stand it.
I can't stand name calling. I can't stand name calling.
It's even down to you so smart, your smart self.
Yeah, I can't.
He can't stand that. He got on to me like literally this week. I said, "With your smart self," in text, and he was like, "Nah,
because
he ain't
I know
doing
you
that."
didn't mean it that way. I know you didn't mean it that way.
But we had to explain to each other because I was thinking that he was being smart with me, and I was like, "With your smart self." And he was like, "Nah, babe, I didn't mean it like that." Text can mess people up. I just text message can mess a relationship up.
Definitely.
Like, if you do not talk on the phone, you need to call that person and say, "I did not mean it the way I texted." Sometimes you have to do that. But go ahead, baby.
Because, like, you know, when you text something, like, tone is everything in text. I swear I know what you're trying to say. I feel like when you text something, I know exactly what your eyes was doing. I know exactly I know you rolled them 3-4 times. I know you blew your breath. And I know you had ungodly thoughts when it came to me. That's what I perceive, right? But a phone call goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And I you know, before we move too far, you know, I want to hit on this. There was so many misunderstandings that we had in the beginning of our relationship because of a conversation that wasn't had. And I'm tired of all these automated conversations. I feel like the reason why we're in a space where our communication is great and our you know, our air is at a high, our atmosphere is at a high, is because we're talking about a lot more. And I think we have an episode on communication coming up soon, but you're always on me about communication.
Always. But one thing I want to say, baby, I don't deal with conflict well.
Yeah.
I don't deal with it well because I have to be vulnerable when I don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the thing is, vulnerability is a key. You need to be vulnerable with your mate, for one. And I don't want to, sometimes I don't want to be vulnerable because I'm not in that space where I want to be vulnerable to my mate.
I don't deal with conflict well because it reminds me of every other time I was hurt in conversation.
Oh, wow.
I'm reminded of every argument up until the age of 36 comes into my mind. Every name I was called, every time I was belittled. Like I almost see you as everything I went through when we argue. And so I'm very adamant about, you know, really controlling the atmosphere, you know, controlling the temperature the thermostat. That's what I always say.
You always control that.
You gotta control the thermostat because I can't allow it to get too hot and I can't let it get too cold. It's that sweet spot. It's like 68 degrees. You know, I like when the house is 68 degrees. But one of the things I'm adamant about in conflict is that I don't like to say things that I'm going to have to apologize for. in the end. I think there was one thing I told you in conflict. I said, sometimes you got to just let me be wrong. And what happens is I'll be wrong, but because you call me a name in the process,
I'll be wrong too.
Now we both wrong. And now what is
we both have to apologize to each other.
What was the purpose of the conflict if we both got to end up apologizing to each other? Like, what are you really learning when we can't keep the main thing,
mm-hmm.
and we can't, allow whatever that situation was to be what it is. It can't never stay there if you don't let the person that's wrong just flat out be wrong. We suffer with that, all the time, but we're getting better at it.
We are.
And it's just about, you tell me all the time in conversation, we talking about this right now. We ain't talking about that.
We talking about this right now. We ain't talking about what happened last week. But the thing is, you had to remind me literally this week, because we had a conflict that came up, and you was like, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about what happened last week. We're talking about right now. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I used your phrase on you.
And I turned over and I said, "You right."
So let's just kind of dive into like healthy communicating in terms of conflict, not communication like the next episode that we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. But when you're dealing with conflict and misunderstandings, I think one of the things where, conflict arises is that you have a misunderstanding of a person that you have a misunderstanding of who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Like half of the conflict that we've had, correct me if I'm wrong, has been because I just simply misunderstood where you were coming from. Or I didn't take the time to understand where you were coming from.
Well, baby, I kind of disagree. We both didn't take the time to see where each other is coming from. Yeah. And we both didn't have that conversation. Yeah, I disagree. We both didn't. It's not just you. We both didn't.
Yeah. And, I think accountability is important. And I think I struggled, in trying to communicate in terms of conflict. I think one of the things I struggled with is I felt like in the space of our relationship, there were spaces where you weren't accountable. I think men at large struggle in relationship where they feel like the weight is on them, the responsibility is on them, accountability is on them, and that the other partner, just does not have a metric of accountability. I think there's times where the situation is just not even that big of a deal, but I'm struggling with the fact that you ain't even accountable. And I think men at large, I think we bear the weight of having to always have a cool head, about always not really being able to talk in our emotions, because God forbid we do that. Now you're reminding us of the time we cried. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's that inward toughness that we think we have to have because we've been vulnerable with the wrong person. Mm-hmm. And so when you're vulnerable with the wrong person, now you learn bad conflict resolution skills, What you got on that?
So I was having a conversation with God, like literally this week. We was praying, we was fasting this week, and I said, God, like something that you said before, and you, RJ, something that you said before was me versus me, and I went through a me versus me moment. Yeah. Because I said, God, you said in your word, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And it's me versus me. Like, what's actually going on? And I was getting inside my head. I was literally in the shower getting inside my head. And I said, why I'm dealing with this conflict in my head? Like, what's going on with me? And then I was like, God, you say I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. You said in Jeremiah, not to be biblical and not to throw scriptures in there, but you said in Jeremiah, you knew when I was in the womb, you knew who I was. So why I'm just going through this conflict inside my head? And then another thing came up, and I said, another thing that came in my mind was a foolish woman versus a fearfully and wonderfully made woman. God, you know who I am. So why I'm going through this in my head? Foolish woman, do I want to be foolish of the things that's going in my head? Or you already told me in your word that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and you made me in your image. So I'm not these things that is going through my brain. I'm having conflict, me versus me.
So let's just park there. Today was a day where the battle of the mind, the battle from within, in the past, we would have conflict that I just would create in my own head, and I think, when you don't have safe spaces and when you don't have secure spaces and, when you feel the weight of the world and pressure and you don't have the right outlets, I talk about that all the time. there was times where you would perceive an energy from me that would create conflict off of the strength that I just didn't know how to say what I was really dealing with. But the other thing about dealing with that is when we struggled in me not being able to tell you what was going on with me, there was a time where you used to force me to talk out of turn. And we're at a space now, I think conflict, resolution is best had when you give everybody the space to have the conversation when they're ready. And I think when you have premature conversations, when you talk out of turn and when you talk before you've really processed thought, it puts you in a space where you're not accountable for your own feelings. There was if we would have talked about whatever we were dealing with today prematurely, it's possible that I could have blamed you for how I was feeling. And I tell you all the time now, this ain't got nothing to do with you. You ain't did nothing wrong.
Ain't nothing
but
wrong.
If I talk about it too soon, there's a part of me that'll blame you because I'm dumping on you versus processing it in a space where, okay, now I'm accountable. I understand where this thought comes from, and now I know how to defeat it. I heard what you said before I was formed in my mother's womb. You had plans for me. And I think a lot of times when you have conflict with people, it also has to do with what you feel about yourself. And I think you have to I had a conversation today with the sensei, shout out to Hunt Spoon, but you have to really... self-talk matters. How you feel about yourself matters.
Yeah.
How you see yourself matters.
Yeah.
How you believe God sees you matters. And then how you see God matters. Those are three things. I just, me, I'm quick to write a message. How you see yourself matters. How God sees you matters, and how you see God in situations matter. We had a phenomenal testimony that was shared today, and without going into his business, I'll tell mine. He said, "I'm thankful because God covered my crazy thoughts."
Ooh,
you see what I'm saying? And so what what I love about church is that when it's timely. Church is great. I love to dance. I love to shout, but I love when it's timely because in that moment today, I was having some crazy thoughts. I'm talking about crazy thoughts and you don't even know it. I'm considered who I am there, and I connect and I encourage people, praying hard. You know what I'm talking about? Help people every week. Crazy thoughts. And you never know who's struggling. But I think again, you have those crazy thoughts, you see yourself crazy, you don't know how God sees you, and you have a hard time seeing God in a situation. That can produce an element of conflict, especially if you engage me prematurely.
Especially, babe, and then I have to be vulnerable to my mate on top of that. I literally in the shower last night, me and my thoughts was just going through. We were just going through, and you woke up, you was like, babe, where you been? In the shower, praying this whole thing through. Yeah. Because me versus everything else right now.
Conflict is a tough thing. I just think when you're dealing with conflict, you have to give yourself and your partner the least amount of reasons to apologize. Yeah. I think with conflict, you have to really lock in to not making things worse. It's already bad. You clearly already have a conflict. You're clearly not getting along. There's something that you disagree about. I got that. So how do we not make that situation worse? How do I not make you feel lesser than? How do I not make you feel even more introverted in your own feelings than what you already are? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times in conflict, we prioritize how we feel versus prioritizing what's best for the situation. And I'm clear and I'm adamant. There are times where we're having conflict where, what you think always matters, but it may not always be relevant. And that's a hard thing to hear. You know what I mean? That's a hard thing. What do you mean what my thoughts are? Right now, your thoughts may not be contributing to the greater good. What you think right now, it may just be a little bit selfish.
You know what?
Yeah.
Conflict over matter.
Yeah.
Conflict, whatever you think don't matter. Yeah. This conflict, what we have, let's talk about the main thing. How you feel right now don't matter, and that does not matter. Let's talk about the conflict at hand, how we can get past it.
This is really heavy on me. I'm thinking about everything I've ever thought about in conflict, like with you specifically. And I say with you specifically because I think I'm in the best place of my life in terms of dealing with conflict with a significant other. Because before now, I lost so much that I realized I don't have to win every time. Can I run that back?
Yeah.
I lost so much in previous relationships where I'm learning now that I don't have to win every argument. I don't have to win every discussion. I don't have to win every decision. And you said it yourself, conflict over matter. Like I have to be able to use like what's good for our relationship right now. How do I know this is one of those times where I just need to listen? Mm-hmm. Or, this time I need to say, as an example, like what do you want the resolution to look like? I don't have to always have the answer.
And one thing, baby, I feel like we as women, we feel like we don't be heard. We have to keep repeating ourselves. Yeah. And that's where my downfall is where I keep repeating it. You was like, babe, you gonna keep saying it again?
I heard you.
I heard you, but I'm gonna keep saying it and keep saying it. And I feel like that's poking the bear because it's like I want a reaction on what I'm saying.
Lean there. You want a reaction versus
I want a reaction.
You don't want a resolution.
I don't want a resolution. I want a reaction. I need you. But the thing is, I want a reaction because I want you to say something that feels good to me, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair. Yeah. That's not.
Yeah, that's big. How many times do we keep conflict going for the reaction versus the resolution?
Ooh.
That's important. And that's why, again, as men, you gotta control the thermostat. And I didn't want to go here, but you got to control the thermostat because hear what she just said. There are times where, I'm not going to make it where it's only women that do this. That's not what I want to say. But in this particular scenario, because you brought it up, there's been times where you've wanted a reaction versus a resolution. Mm-hmm. Men, we have to be accountable. We got to control the thermostat because at the end of the day, I believe men are responsible for what comes out of the household. Period. I don't care if you're dating. I don't care if you're engaged. I don't care if you're married. What comes out of your household is your responsibility. And when you don't control the thermostat, you put yourself in situations, i.e. like Jonathan Majors, mm-hmm. where they had conflict.
Correct.
They did not have good conflict resolution. And whatever they were dealing with, somebody poked somebody to get a reaction and not a resolution.
Correct.
And now you got Jonathan Majors, who, as a man, let's just own it, men. We are accountable for what comes out of our household, for what comes out of anything mm-hmm. that's connected to us. And we have to be, listen, I am a person who has dealt with situations where I allowed a reaction I allowed reactions to win over what could have been mm-hmm. the resolution. I'm talking about the hugest downfall of my life. I was at the pinnacle. You weren't with me at that time, but you've been around people who've told you mm-hmm. I was at the pinnacle of my game.
Yeah.
I was number one in the class, killing it on all levels, on all metrics. And because I succumbed to the reaction versus the resolution, and at the end of the day, I didn't realize in that moment that I controlled the thermostat. I allowed, this is why I say there's times where what you're thinking right now, it always matters, but it doesn't always contribute to the greater good. Mm-hmm. And you have to realize that there are certain things, men, that we are just overtly responsible for. It don't matter how you slice it. It don't matter how you look at it. You are overtly responsible for it. I got a couple more things, and I promise you I'm gonna leave it alone.
I have something.
Go ahead.
But the thing is, with us women, when we dealing with a conflict, especially with our mate, we think that conflict once the conflict is up and everything like that, and I say what I have to say in that moment, and now I want a reaction. The reaction, I'm thinking the reaction, how he react to it is the way he loved me in that moment, and no, that means it's toxic, because he heard what I said, and now I want him to react to it. It can lead up to being toxic. It can be a toxic moment where somebody is going to jail, somebody being behind handcuffs because I want him to react. And when he react, now I'm kind of like, oh, snap.
I believe yelling turns into fighting at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because, when you, as you said before, I think, again, I don't think this is a male on female thing or female on male. I think both genders need to be accountable and responsible mm-hmm. for what that looks like. But when we don't get the reaction we're looking for, when we're not looking for a resolution, I'm going to continue to probe, and I'm going to continue to do things. First I'm going to yell. Then I'm going to call you a name. Then I'm going to get in your face. And so then you get in personal space. And then what happens when you start getting physical? And I think that there's, I would say it this way.
It can become toxic.
There's certain things that are disrespectful. I think you can recover from disrespect, but I think that there are certain things that are just flat out unacceptable. And I think physical violence at any state, in any way, shape, form, or fashion, is flat out unacceptable. Now, if you in your relationship, you choose to recover and to heal from whatever that looks like, kudos to you. But I promise you, that person that you're with, they never forget. Mm-mm. They never forget. And I think the worst thing, as a mate, as a spouse, you can do is make the person that you're with be scared of you. And I don't think men are like, physically scared of women, but there's a fear that, again, I have to be accountable for what happens in my house.
Yeah.
And you should never put me in a position, where I either have to respond to something. Like, stop making me be the bigger person. I don't have to always be the bigger person. Sometimes you need to look for the resolution and not look for and I'm talking to you right now, but I'm talking because I want people that are watching to really understand that I'm speaking on behalf of the men right now. They won't tell you this, but there are times where I don't need to be the bigger person right now. Just stop pushing me. Stop looking for the reaction and let's look for the resolution. And if we can't get there right now, my dad has said this way, put yourself in timeout.
Or put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it.
Put yourself in timeout because
you know how many times we had to put a pin in and say we'll talk about this later.
Because there's certain things you just can't recover from.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. Once you say it, I can't unhear what you said. I can try to forgive it, but I can't unhear, certain things. And so I got to keep going back to this point. In conflict, try to minimize the things that you need to apologize for. I can't stand arguments where we both apologizing. Well, I'm sorry because I said, well, I'm sorry. Like, no.
Oh, you forgot.
No.
Oh, you forgot this part.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now you're starting to keep score on well, you didn't apologize for this part. No, I'm gonna let you be wrong all by yourself. That way, when we do that, we just do one mass apology. We do one mass altar call, and it's over and done with. But when you're dealing with conflict, man, the biggest thing is you got to keep the main thing the main thing. You got to stay on topic, you got to make sure that I like to process my thoughts in a way where I'm attacked. God, this just dropped on me. You got to realize when you have conflict, it's about the situation. It ain't about the person. Because if I attack you, then I've made it about you, but we've never fixed the situation. We've never and I'm over here trying to fix you when it ain't you. It's a situation that if I just say this particular thing that you do makes me uncomfortable, we can address that. You're still a lovely person. You're still a wonderful person. But now you walk away from the conversation saying, am I even a good person because of what I said about you?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Like, in conflict, it is important to keep the main thing the main thing. Because
don't bring the past into the future.
And hold on, put a pin there because wait a minute. I want to be erudite. I want to give a clear and a balanced text. Bringing the past into the future. The hard thing is that we have to acknowledge that, because I forgave you don't mean I forgot. And so to sit here and say, oh, you got to forgive. And so I think people bringing up old stuff, if you're a repeat offender, that's a real thing.
You just a repeat offender.
And so there was one
just
time.
acknowledge that you were a repeat offender.
Yeah. And so you said one time, I ain't her. I ain't blaming you for her. I'm just saying you did the same thing she did.
But the thing is, you making me feel like I'm her.
Yeah. One thing.
But don't make me feel like I'm her.
Well, then don't do the same thing she did.
Ooh.
No, and that's
but the thing is, yeah. But the thing is, teach me how not to be like her.
That's dope. I love that.
Because of the simple fact, like you let her go because she kept being a repeat offender. So you see me doing the same thing. Teach me. So sit me down. Talk to me.
Lean into what we just talked about because I think they don't even realize where we were going with that. Okay, we're talking about repeat offenses and we're talking about comparing people to their exes and stuff like that. There's a couple things I want to say there. The first thing I want to share is triggers and traumas. They're a real thing. Like, let's not try to gloss past the fact that triggers and traumas exist. But
we talked about this before.
But I want to free people and let you know that your triggers and your traumas are not an excuse for lack of self-control. They are not an excuse for you to not control, your self-talk, your thoughts, your physical, your hands and stuff like that. There's not an excuse for none of that stuff. But triggers and traumas are 1000% real. The other thing is, in dealing with conflict, I remember one time you said, I'm not her. And I said, I ain't even talking about her. I'm talking about what we're talking about today. You just happened to do it a week ago. You know what I mean?
But you talk about your traumas and everything like that. Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm not her. You already talked about what she did and everything like that. but I'm not her. I have to. It's a reminder.
Yeah.
You remember in the podcast before, sometimes you have to give reminders.
That's true.
I'm not her.
That's true.
Okay.
Are y'all seeing where we're leaning here? So the biggest thing is, okay, you gotta. That's an example of keeping the main thing, because clearly, if I make a comparison, she won't even hear the problem. I just literally in real time showed you how you can make an accusation about a person and they'll not understand what you're trying to correct because you're seeing them as the problem versus the problem as the problem. I just don't like when you do this. And even though I don't like when you do this, I still love you. We're still connected. You still my person. You're still what I still need you. I still desire you. I still want you. This is why I tell you, when you fussing at me, you need to hold my hand. You need to rub my back or something.
Yeah.
You need to touch me and you know I say
reaffirm
touch me and affirm me at the
Reaffirm
same time. You know, because certain things you'll say if you ain't touching me, I think it's fighting words. You know what I'm saying? But that was an example in real time to where, okay, yeah, you don't ever want to make your person feel like they're accountable for your past. You don't ever want to make a person feel like you think they are less as a person because of the thing that you're trying to correct. I am just connected to, this is the infraction. You don't like when I don't let up the toilet seat.
But I got to a point in our relationship where I just walk away. And walking away does not mean that's the answer.
Yeah.
That's the correct answer. I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? And I do my hand.
And the other thing is, every time I go in, you just remind me. And so now if I don't do it,
it's just a reminder.
I'm just being disobedient now. and so okay, in conflict, okay, and so choosing not to hear your partner, choosing not to change for the greater good of your relationship is a form of disobedience, but it's also a form of not submitting. And this is why I said in the last recording, it's important. Everybody says that, the woman is supposed to submit to her husband or the wife is to submit to her husband. I think mutual submission is important. There is certain points in the relationship where you have to get something out of the deal. You have to feel heard. You have to feel affirmed. You have to feel like your thoughts are important. And the simple way that you do that is just correcting the small mistakes, because correcting the small mistakes give you patience for the things that are big. When I really mess up in a big way, but because I'm capable of, and so when we fuss about big stuff, the reason why it lingers so long is because you messing up this, you messing up that, you messing up this, and that. And it's almost like, okay, like what are you doing in terms of listening and responding to what is important to me? But if I just focus on the small things, you know what I mean? It gives you patience to deal with me in the big things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, baby. And also, it's all about, let's go back to what I was saying earlier. It's all about a foolish woman. A foolish woman would tear down her house, but a wise woman, you can't even get to, you so stuck on being foolish where you can't even get to the wise part.
Yeah, it takes two fools to argue.
it takes two fools.
And so, I all right, we joked a lot. We kind of talked around. We danced around this whole conversation, pretty much the entire time. But I want to minimize the arguments because I just don't want to see you cry. I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want to see you, I don't ever want you to feel not safe. I don't want to apologize for unnecessary things. If I'm going to apologize, I want to apologize for what I did. But I never want to apologize for what I said.
Something that we said earlier today, we was laying in the bed and I said, baby, I don't want to do what they did. Yeah. Like literally in real time, this is real time. I said, I don't want to see you hurt. Yeah. And that's my desire. I never want to see my man hurt. I don't want to do you like that. Yeah. I don't want to do what they did. Because I'm not them. I'm Jessica. I'm not them.
We got into this conversation about dealing with conflict. This is why I said there's layers to this. And we honed in on, how you talk to your partner, because the conflict that was presented to us by way of phone call, where we were kind of helping that couple out, it was kind of connected to how they were talking to each other. Yeah. And I believe how you talk to each other, it just matters. And I believe that, certain conversations, certain debates, they just don't happen in the first 30 days. No. And I think, it's one thing to have grace. but it's another thing to be shown who that person really is. And when you see who that person really is in 30, let me tell you something, ain't nothing to argue about in 30 days.
But the thing is,
ain't nothing to argue about.
I was trying to give her hope, and I was
Yeah.
dancing around it, and then I was like, you know what? I seen her crying, and I'm that kind of person. I'm not gonna never tell somebody to leave their man.
Yeah.
I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I would never do that because what I go through, I don't want nobody tell me to leave RJ.
Yeah.
But 30 days in, and he being very disrespectful.
That's too soon.
That's too soon. And I was just like, baby, you got to pray. I told her, I was like, you have to pray about some things. Let God give you that answer. Not from Jessica, but let God give you that answer. And then RJ was like, you talking about a man, and you need to hear a man. You need to hear a man's answer. You don't need to listen to Jessica. And he told me that in real time. You need to hear from a man.
Yeah.
Because how you going to sit here and talk about a man and you not one?
Yeah.
And I said, the pen dropped.
Yeah.
I said, we're here. Put it on speakerphone.
and we freed her.
RJ freed her.
Yeah, we had good church that night.
Yeah.
We had good church that night. So we're gonna go 1-1-1-1, right? And so we're gonna, I didn't tell you we were gonna do this, but we're gonna give everybody 3 things to help, deal with conflict in real time, like off the top of the dome, like the first 3 things that come to your mind. So I'll start off to give you a chance to
start
think.
off first.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man J Mike. You know what I'm saying? We talk about conflict every single day. And so there's the one thing that we say all the time: you got to think deeper than what you're about to say. You have to think deeper than what you're about to say. If what I'm about to say is gonna get me on the couch, no, for real. Think deeper than what you're about to say. And is it really on topic? Is it on time? And is it an insult? Because people cannot unhear what they heard. It don't matter what the apology you give. They cannot unhear what they heard. What's one thing that you think,
Oh, I thought we were doing all 3 in a row.
No. So we're gonna go 1-1-1.
Okay.
1-1-1.
Express your feelings and your thoughts
Yeah.
in a respectable manner. Yeah. Like, express that.
I'm about to free some folk. You being real on the level, on the surface. Keep your hands to yourself in conflict. Keep your hands and your feet.
Keep your hands and feet
yourself.
and objects to
Because
yourself.
The truth of the matter is, and I want to free some folk, and this is, I might get canceled for this, but the truth of the matter is that, unfortunately, there's a lot of domestic violent cases that, that are, brought to light. And a lot of times it's the man seen as the aggressor, but we never talk about the woman slapping him upside his head.
Ooh.
For 30, 40 minutes. And then what happens is, instead of working to a resolution, you provoke the reaction. And only person that's held accountable in the situation is who reacted.
Yep.
We never talk about how we got there. In fact, the court systems don't even care about how we got there. Because at the end of the day, men are supposed to be seen as people that are accountable, that are responsible, and have self-control. I want to extend the fact that self-control is something that both parties in the relationship have a responsibility to do. Everybody has a responsibility to keep their hands and feet inside the vehicle. Keep your hands and your feet inside the vehicle. What's number 2 for you? Keep your hands to yourself, y'all.
You're so silly. Yeah. Do not put the blame game. Don't play the blame game. Don't do the blame game.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. No, I blame you for this and I blame you for that. No.
Yeah.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Or
take some responsibility for yourself.
I like to come up with my own thoughts, but this time I have to steal a thought. I ain't gonna lie. I like to come up with my own thoughts. Shout out to the Creek. Dealing with conflict. Be flexible. That was something that was dropped in one of the messages that was dropped in one of the messages at the Creek. Be flexible, because every conflict, the parameters change. And the parameters change because the people that are inside the conflict change. From day to day, you never know, what I've encountered in my mind, what I've encountered at work, what I'm just encountering just in my own emotional space that could be contributing to the person that you're getting today. You got to be flexible. And I think that takes a level of patience. That takes a level of grace. I think that takes a level of awareness of not only just yourself, but do I know my partner enough to know, what? They're not having the best day. And so let me not make their day that's already bad about me. Why you not talking to me? Why you not communicating with me? Notice that they're the one with the issue, but you made it about yourself. You see what I'm saying? And I can't even deal with the struggles that I'm having within for you trying to make the fact that I'm just having a quiet day about you. I think you got to be flexible. You got to pay attention to the person, to your partner that you're with, because, you know, I think, you know, there's times where, okay, yeah, I like when, you know, to focus on myself in a relationship. But I'll tell you the reason why, you know, you're experiencing what you experience in terms of being on a 9 or a 10 today is because I've overtly gone out of my way to make certain things about you.
Yeah.
And then you do the same thing in return. I ain't got to focus on myself so much when you focusing on me too. If I can trust you to focus on me as I'm focusing on you, now we're both getting something out the deal. That's where flexibility comes into play. But when it's always about how I feel and what I think and, you know, my energy matters and stuff like that, there's no flexibility. And so the defense mechanism for the other person that's in the relationship says, well, if you worried about me, well, let me put my own life jacket on too. Let me put my own mask on too. Let me make sure I'm good too, because you got you. You know what I mean? It's almost like you go into unnecessary self-defense. And there's no way to win a conversation, or there's no way to win in confrontation, you know, when you're going self-interested. And when I say win, I talked about winning and losing earlier today. I don't mean so much win individually. I mean win collectively. And there's a way to win collectively when y'all are both equally and adamantly concerned about what each other gets out the deal. I'm concerned about how you feel when you walk away from a disagreement. I'm concerned about how you see yourself. I'm concerned about, you know, how you see the relationship, because one wrong comment could make you see yourself different. One wrong comment will make you see the relationship different. And now we got distractions. And now we've elongated the amount of time it takes to kind of be freed from the confrontation, when if I would have just prioritized how do we win from this conflict versus how do I win from the conflict. Ooh, long answer.
Long.
But I hope I
conflict don't matter.
Yeah, I hope we freed somebody. You got one more? Because that was my third. You got a third?
Do I have a third?
Do you have a third?
Well, keep the main thing the main thing. I think I put mine into the second one too. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, I hope that y'all got something out of this, man. This was good for us. We didn't really get into like conflict in terms of like, you know, after 3 months, because the situation again that was presented to us was a situation of conflict in the first 30 days. But we're going to be talking about communication and conflict in the relationship, because, you know, as you know, we've been together almost a year now, and there's been a year's worth of conflict that we want to kind of, you know, tour guide you through, because there are some things more important than just kind of what you say to each other.
Yeah, because baby, we had conflict every day for 3 months.
Oh yeah, there was conflict,
and we're going to talk about that.
There was conflict that we created. There was conflict that we allowed. There was conflict that we didn't allow, that we didn't resolve. You know what I mean? And so there's different tiers and layers to conflict. But this particular episode was 30 days in. Don't disrespect me 30 days in. Don't call me no name 30 days in. Don't cuss at me 30 days in. No. Don't talk about my mama 30 days. You don't have enough.
You know what you can do at the store in 30 days? I can return it.
Yeah. Oh.
I can return you in 30 days.
Oh, and get all my money back.
And all my money back. Return to sender.
But after 30 days,
I return you to the next one. I'm just being honest.
That's crazy.
I'm returning you to that next one, because I can't deal with it.
That's real.
I'm sorry.
But you can't allow, like, you gotta deal with it in real time, because what you don't deal with, what you concede to, is what you allow. And you can't, you know, you got to deal with that. And that's what I was trying to encourage her to understand. Like, you're too valuable. You're too valuable. You only got 10 good years left. you know what I'm saying? Because we ain't getting old. Baby, we ain't getting no younger. I'm getting finer, but I ain't getting no younger.
Ooh, yes,
and I want to enjoy the days that I have left. And I want to kind of
yes, you are. I just want to, let's stick right there. Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Ooh, God.
I'm
handsome.
Yeah.
I call him handsome.
King.
Yeah, King.
Keep going.
Oh, baby, you do something.
There's a bunch of names. Keep going.
It is Big
going.
Daddy.
There we go. And
that's the major.
Some more. There's some more names.
Baby, let's not do that, because no.
Hey, we love y'all, man. Thank you for tuning into the check-in. For more content just like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you pin us to your notifications so you can get updates on all of our shorts, promos, and things of the such, man. We love y'all. We thank God for y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon.